We're joined today by Paul Boga. He is an author. His latest book is Mully Children's Family Transformations. Now, for those who don't know you, Paul, this isn't the first time you have written about Mully Children's Family. This is something you've dedicated quite a bit of your writing to and your life to. Share a little bit about your connection to Mully Children's Family.
Sure. So I went to MCF for the first time in 2003 to teach physics and math. And Charles Mully asked me to write the story of his life, and I almost fell off my chair. He was a 6-year-old boy who'd been abandoned and abused by his family. He wakes up one morning and no one's there. He's been completely left alone. He goes from hut to hut, begging for food. As a teenager, he starts a little taxi business, and that gets bigger and bigger. And later on, he branches out to oil and gas distribution, property management, real estate insurance, becomes extremely wealthy. And then one day, God calls him to sell everything he has to go into slums and rescue street children. And he's rescued well over 30,000 kids in Kenya.
What was that like to be able to write that story? Like, you were floored when you were asked to do this. What was that experience like?
It felt like you were interviewing somebody who had just walked out of the book of Acts. What he talked about, what he did, the humility and the gentleness and the incredible courage that he and his wife Esther and his kids had to go out into slums and start bringing in kids. Very, very dangerous environment. But you saw the faith he had in Jesus, the passion he had for sharing Christ with the kids, and the desire to give these kids a brand new home and become their mom and their dad. And I was extremely humbled to do it and shocked and surprised that he would ask me to do it, and also amazed at the response the book has had. It's over 20 years later, it's still going strong.
20 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah.
That was such I know I had the opportunity to read that book. That was definitely a great one. You've got this new one now, Transformations, 7 Changed Lives. What's great about this now is you're going in depth into the lives of people who have been through Mully Children's Family. Tell us a little bit more about this book.
Sure. So it's the story of 7 kids. It's their life before they came to Mully Children's Family, how Christ changed their life at Mully Children's Family, and how their life is different now that they've gone out of Mully Children's Family. So these are all kids that I know. In fact, 4 of the 7 kids are kids that I knew and taught when I was at Mully Children's Family way back in 2003. And so there's these really cool shots that I look back on. It's like, well, these are kids that I got to meet and to know, and they were just freshly off the street. And it's amazing how Christ can change people's lives. And part of the reason the book was written was to give encouragement to people who have friends or family and they've been praying for ages for people to get saved. And like, why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening? I just want to encourage people, don't give up. Let's keep praying. Let's keep fasting. Let's keep trusting the Lord for miracles to happen. Because if Mully can go into slums and rescue kids who are at the absolute bottom of the world, that should encourage us to continue to pray for people in our lives.
What can people expect? Like you said, there are 7 stories, and these are kids you had the opportunity to actually interact with and be with. What can they expect out of this book?
So there's 7 different lives. So at face value, you may think, well, they're all 7 kids who get rescued by MCF. Aren't they all the same? Well, they come to MCF very, very different ways. So some of them come because their parents have passed away. Others are escaping violence in northern Turkana, where a war is broken out. Other kids are just in the absolute bottom in terms of they have no food to eat, no chance for education. And so as you study these kids' lives, you'll see how Christ meets every kid where they're at. And so it's an encouragement to us too that God, just in the same way that he goes out to seek that one lost sheep, God is looking for each one of us and also the people in our lives, that every one of us has a different issue or challenge, and God knows how to reach us. He knows how to get us. And so each one of these kids is very different, and it's cool how Christ meets these kids in unique ways.
What's great about this book as well is that all of the proceeds are going back to Mully Children's Family.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Well, I love the ministry and I love the chance to be able to use the giftings that I have. I work in construction, and so evenings and weekends I write books. And so whatever money I make off of those books goes back to Mully Children's Family. And I know a lot of people across Canada, they love to donate time and energy. And I just want to encourage people, whatever ministry they're involved with, to continue doing that. My dear friend Arvid Lowen is the big cyclist, right? And he's been cycling for years, doing all kinds of crazy, wacky things to raise a whack of money for MCF. I just want to encourage people, whatever God's called you to do, take as much time as you can because this life down here is very short. We only have a certain amount of time. So, whatever your hand finds to do, the Bible says, do it with all your might. And so, yeah, it's late evenings. Yeah, it's weekends. It's early mornings. But, whatever time we have, we want to use it to invest in the kingdom. So just encourage people wherever you're at. Don't give up. Just keep going and be blessed and encouraged in what you're doing.
For our listeners who are interested in learning more about this book, and obviously you do have a book launch coming up, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, so our book launch is Saturday, November the 2nd at 7 p.m. at North Kelowna MB Church, corner of Gateway and Springfield, or they can go onto mcfcanada.org and it's got all the information there as well. Or you can just Google it and it'll come up as well. Amazon will have it too.
And you will have a special guest at this book launch as well.
Yes, very cool. So Stella Loku is a girl that I got to meet at MCF back in 2003, and she's now studying here at at the University of Manitoba. And so she will be at the book launch as well, giving her testimony about what it was like to be in Turkana, what it was like to be on the run, and what it was like to meet Charles Mully and to become saved, to become born again, and how she now is sharing the gospel with other people. So it's a wild story, true testimony of how God really is rescuing people all around the world and in Kenya in specific.
I love how full circle that is, though, too, to come back and now study at the University of Manitoba. Like, that
Yeah,
is complete full circle.
yeah. I went out there and I saw her in Kenya, and now she's here in Winnipeg. That's wild, right? Yeah.
That is so awesome. What's up next for you? Anything on the horizon? I know this is obviously the most newest thing, but anything
Sure.
else new for you coming
Yeah,
up?
two things coming up. So the next one is the Winnipeg Realtorial Film Festival, getting ready for our 15th year. Crazy
Wow.
how that all started, but amazing how God has been faithful in that. And the next book, Lord willing, that will be coming out next year is the true story of Noel Isaacs. Noel is a missionary in Nepal, and he never wanted to be in missions, didn't want to do it. God kept working on his heart. And he goes into the absolute remotest parts of Nepal to unreached people groups, starts sharing the gospel, and thousands of people get saved. Goes into the poorest areas of Kathmandu, just starts sharing Jesus. People get healed, people get born again, and it's just amazing how the gospel's taken off there. So, for all of us, whatever God's called us to do, just go for it. Take the time, go for it, share Jesus, serve wherever it is, because, like I mentioned, this time is short. We only got a brief window. So Noel Isaacs is a quiet, humble, very unassuming guy. You meet him, you'd never think a guy would just be doing that, but he's doing a great job there in Nepal, and now it's spread throughout the entire world. That he's been involved with.
And now you're about to share that. We look
Yeah,
forward to that. Keep us in the
thanks,
loop.
Colleen.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, bless you, Colleen. Thanks so much to you and to everyone at CHVI.